Hello everyone, I've decided to do another video today. I wanted to do a video focused around secondary breast cancer and the research that goes into this particular disease because I don't know if any of you have ever seen you definitely will have seen some of the charities that raise money for breast cancer, and a lot of them are sort of geared towards the pink ribbon, which is like a overall charity for breast cancer, I suppose. But in terms of metastatic disease alone, it kind of needs to be treated as a bit of a separate charity because there's so little that goes into it, and it's something that I feel really passionate about, obviously being a stage 4 metastatic breast cancer patient. It's mind-boggling, and it has always baffled me as to how much little research goes into stages 2, 3 and 4 of the disease, because I understand that the charity and the hospitals and the scientists and the medical people all agree that because of the way that breast cancer behaves and the different types that there are, it is quite a difficult disease to control. And also the treatments that they'd probably have to come up with would be far and many. There'd have to be thousands of different treatments because every breast cancer is different. I'm triple positive, so that means that I won't go into the medical side of it, but basically the cancer responds to estrogen within my body, which obviously everybody makes, especially women, and it essentially feeds the cancer to grow. So you can be estrogen positive or estrogen negative breast cancer, both of which are not good to have. Well, none of them are not good to have. There is triple negative cancer, which is basically where your cancer doesn't sorry, please excuse my cough. Your cancer doesn't actually have a tumour receptor as such, which makes it even more difficult to fight. I think this is one of the sort of higher risk breast cancers as such, and not many people survive triple negative cancer, especially because it doesn't have the receptors, so therefore the drugs find it harder to attach to the cancer and kill off the cancer. So these, even though I'm triple positive, like in a way it's bad because it makes my cancer quite aggressive and difficult, but it's also quite good because it's opened up many more treatments than perhaps I would have been able to have if I was triple negative. So triple negative is horrible cancer. It's a nasty cancer, and it's probably the higher risk cancer as well. There's also human, oh god, no, it's not human, it's yeah, it is human epidermal growth factor, I think it's called. For short, it's HER2, and I'm positive in that as well. Again, out of all the cancers that you can possibly have, HER2 is probably one of the worst ones, because it's a very aggressive cancer, and this tends to be the one that metastasizes quickly and it progresses quickly, and it's quite resilient as far as the cancer goes. So another one to add to the list for me, yay! I don't know if there are any people out there who are HER2 or triple positive or estrogen positive, but every cancer is different in everyone's body, just like our cells are different. It's exactly the same, because the cancer cell is essentially a faulty cell of your own. So I must be very faulty to have all three types of cancer. But and then there's there's a pro-estrogen as well, and I'm pro-estrogen negative. Again, that's another type of cancer receptor that doesn't respond particularly well to treatments, and there isn't actually a lot of targeted treatments that work on the pro-estrogen cancers as far as I'm aware. So again, another difficult cancer, but all of them are difficult. There is a lot more research, I think, and drugs into the estrogen receptor side of it, because most people that do get breast cancer are women. There are men that do get breast cancer. It's quite common actually, like I didn't realise, but I've actually met a couple of gentlemen along my own journey who have had breast cancer themselves, and it is possible. So men be aware as well, I think, because it's not a nice thing to go through, whether you're a man or a woman. But I wasn't even aware that men could get breast cancer, I'm not going to lie. But now that I am aware, it does kind of make me sort of think about things a bit more, and think about different people's situations as well as my own, and as well as being a woman. Like, men are going to be equally affected by this, if they're ever affected by this. Hopefully never, because like I say, kind of one of the main sort of triggers for breast cancer is estrogen, which I think is quite well known, and that can be a result of periods and pregnancy and things like that, which are all things that women do go through. But obviously men have got a little bit of estrogen in their bodies as well. Not that they're going to go and get pregnant at any point soon, but you know, it's something to be aware of. So going back to the point of the different types of cancer and how they develop, yeah, so the HER2 and the triple negative cancers are considered to be the more difficult ones. There is currently actually quite a lot of treatments for HER2 positive cancers. It's becoming more and more, because they're discovering that, because it's quite an aggressive cancer, like they obviously feel that that is a priority in terms of treatment. And as I say, there's quite a lot of different treatments available for estrogen receptor positive cancers. Hopefully there will be more put into the triple negative, because as I say, that is quite a horrible horrible thing, because it limits your treatment choice. But the basic reason for my talk is because, well, this video is because I don't think people have any concept as to how many people are diagnosed with secondary cancer from having primary, and also how much of the funding that you see, you know, when people like wear pink and they do the sponsored run for breast cancer and all that kind of thing, it's always the pink ribbon that they are supporting, which is fantastic, don't get me wrong, that's great, but a lot of that funding and research goes to primary cancers, whether that be sort of stage 1, like where you can just have surgery to remove it, or you only need like a little bit of chemotherapy, or you can have keyhole surgery now for primary tumours, and the overall survival rate for primary diagnosis and treatment is pretty good. It's high, and that's because of all the funding and all the research and all the charity work that essentially these companies are doing, which is fantastic. But then For some unbeknown reason, I don't know why, but when it comes to being diagnosed with a progressive stage of cancer, the funding and sort of awareness just kind of seems to trail off a little bit, and it really bothers me, because I was looking at some facts before I sort of did this video, and it said something like 40,000 men and women a year will die as a result of metastatic breast cancer. That's a big amount of people. And stage 4, terminal, not fixable, is not considered sustainable to live. So when you're diagnosed with a progressive disease, whether that be stage 2, stage 3 or stage 4, you are kind of put in a little basket that says probably not going to make it. Tough, you know, and that's like, it's hard to hear. And because people are living longer with these diseases and they're living quite good qualities of life, I mean, like looking at me now, I'd say as I am walking around doing my day-to-day activities and living life, you would never think that I was poorly. But if you actually sat down and read my medical records, I'm basically Deadpool. I'm a walking dead person, and I probably should be dead on paper, considering what I've actually got wrong with me and where I've got tumours and how much treatment I've had and the problems that I've probably got with my body. But the point is that I've been living with this disease for 8 years, and it hasn't been secondary the whole time, but it's been secondary from 2016, I think it was. So like, that's still quite a considerable amount of time, like, given that I'm kind of classed as a write-off. Like, I don't mean that in a horrible way, but, and you're not made to feel like that, by the way. I just want to point that out. The doctors never have made me feel like I'm a write-off. They've never made me feel undervalued as a patient and that I haven't got any chance at all. No one's ever said that to me. It's just, it's my opinion on this particular matter. So just to give you some sort of numbers, if you like, 6 to 10 people are diagnosed as metastatic cancer, which is stage 4, and another 30% will progress to stage 2, 3 and 4 from the original diagnosis. Sometimes, like, people are diagnosed immediately with secondaries, so when they're diagnosed as having primary breast cancer, a lump in the breast, straight away they're diagnosed with metastases in liver. Most likely places are liver, lungs, bones and bowel, sometimes cervical as well, because obviously they're connected with the estrogen and stuff like that. So to say that there's 30% that will progress to that, I think that the funding that they put into the actual research doesn't reflect that figure, and it just, because basically, you know, I was talking about the Think Pink and they raise all the money and they do the Stand Up to Cancer, etc, etc. Well, the funds obviously go to the breast cancer charity, which does all the trials and researches the drugs and stuff. But as a metastatic disease, there is, you literally won't believe this when I tell you, but 2 to 5% of the funds go to metastatic breast cancer research. 2 to 5%. And like, when you put that into context, like in terms of how much they do raise and how much money is raised towards primary breast cancers, 2 to 5%. And that's on people who could be stages 2, 3 and 4, or as I say, immediately metastatic disease. And it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon to get metastatic disease. Like I say, I was diagnosed as primary, thought everything was hunky-dory for 5 years of my life, and then boom, it comes back, because that is what cancer does. Like, it's not just a case of you're cured, off you go, especially because at that point I was already stage 3, because I'd got the tumour in my lymph glands as well. So everybody's different, and I think considering that, like, there's so many people that are diagnosed with breast cancer, you hear about it all the time. You do. There's so many stories